everyone. I'm Shweta from Guinea's Planet, and I'm here with you and with Dr. Reena for another conversation in the series Research for Everyone, where we simplify the process of research and research findings and bring it to you in plain language. Let me first introduce Dr. Reena. Dr. Reena works as assistant professor in social work at Christ University, Bangalore. And I've known her for many years and have also known about her research. So I thought this is a good opportunity for me to bring her in. Thank you for joining us, Reena.
Thank you so much, Shweta. Thank you so much, Ginny's Planet, for having me and for having this wonderful series on research and inquiry for young minds. Thank you.
Right. So tell us about your research, Reena. What was that about?
Great. So I'll take you to a picture which possibly you have. So these are two of the people whom I encountered in my research. Before I go on to tell you what my research was, it is basically about somebody called Nicole and Ayush. Names have been changed to withhold their information for confidentiality, but a girl who's very lively and a boy who's very playful and cheerful. Nicole has been born and brought up brought up in the United States, and Ayush has been in India, and they have had their different lives with going to schools, having friends. But what is common between both of them is the fact that they've been uh, adopted by families, by parents, by individuals who love them, who wanted to have them in their family. So that is a common thing about them. And that is what my research is also about children who could not be taken care of by their biological parents, but have been taken care of by by somebody else, by some other families who were really loving and wanting to have children and who could not have children due to different reasons. The whole practice of having such children into families is what we know is what is known as adoption, and the practice and the issues is what was the concern of my research. Research as a word, when we say, it's all about searching again and again about something, because a newer addition or new knowledge set is what comes in when a new person looks into the same issue. So that is research. That's where it comes from.
Right. Thanks, Reena. So, all this information that you wanted to find out about children and adoption, what was the process to find out whatever that you were seeking?
All right. So, in research, we have a systematic way of looking at who is going to be a part of our research, from whom we are going to collect data. So, this is the process called as a sampling process. This particular population of people who have adopted or who children who've been adopted are not easily available or evident in our society, in our community, I had to use a technique in sampling called snowballing technique, where I would meet one set of adoptees or people who have adopted, and they would lead me to another one. So that's the process that I followed. And these are the respondent sets that you see on the screen. It included children who were adopted, it included families who are going to adopt. Families, what I meant is could be a mother and a father, a conventional family, but also some others, two mothers, one mother, or one father. So I could also look into diversity of families that we have around us. Those were the respondents. I also covered some people who are expert in this area and some psychologists. So I collected their information, whatever they wanted to share, through different ways. And some of these ways is what we call in the whole research is the tools. And the tool that I used was basic simple FGD guide and interview guide. Interview is a conversation, is a tool to have a conversation in an in-depth manner, and FGD is to have that kind of a conversation with a lot of people together. So I used both these tools, and with this, I got data. In on total, I collected data from 121 respondents, and all the data was recorded, stored, and preserved for analysis.
Okay, so I'm very curious to know, Reena, because you met 121 people, and that included children and parents and other people. So, how are you keeping track of the information that you were getting, and how are you able to remember everything?
Oh, yeah, remembering is not very easy. So that's why we have certain devices. I used to record whatever was happening, of course, with their permission and their consent, which is very important in the research. And I will go back and I will immediately write down or type down. There are softwares which converts even the audio text into verbal, but it's always good as a researcher to write down or type and then keep it safe. Later, a lot of these interviews, which we in research, qualitative research, call it as transcripts, will be there. Those transcripts basically you have to analyze. So analysis one can do on own or also use certain softwares for that analysis. So that's how I used to record and document my interviews or my conversations with the participants. That's what you can see, some of the software analysis, how it used to happen. So that would give me raw words, emotions, thoughts, feelings, fears, anxiety, a lot, and that would be processed. And when you process it, it becomes data, findings, completed research materials. And we move on to the whole process of putting that, assimilating that as a report, which can be presented in simple words to people, for everybody in the community to understand, read, process, and work on it for further intervention. So, report writing is an important part in research.
Right. So, I know that sounds very simple, but I'm sure you had a lot of work that you did. So, tell us, what were the key things that you discovered through your research? What were the key findings?
Sure. It was quite interesting, the findings that I came up with, because the group that I was intervening and the issue itself was quite interesting to deal with. So findings were came as a revolution in certain areas, and findings came for different people. Like for instance, the adopters. I was really curious, and there is not much of literature available also as to when we say where did you find children? I mean, are they available out there in the locality, in the community? How do you reach? So, several respondents said that they found them directly in hospitals, which means that they were not documented, which is not a good thing to know, because it means every child who's been adopted, there should be documentation. So, this opened the eye for me and for several other people that there are children who've been taken from the hospitals. Then, of course, the legal and the actual way of doing things, where children are adopted from agencies who are authorized and who are registered to do so under the law of the country. And there are parents who went through the proper process, which Kara, an agency which regulates adoptions in India, determines, and they went through the proper process. Some of them adopted from families, from their loved ones, near and dear ones, significant others. Some of them also involved in practices such as children being bought from families who had several children and could not take care of so many children. So in return of money, they took children. So these were some of the sites and findings in terms of where they would find children. Then it was also interesting to know that who are these people who adopt, and from that also comes as to why is adoption a practice, or why do people adopt. So who adopts? Definitely parents who do not have children of their own, followed by um, people who are separated from their families, from their spouses due to divorce, separation, and who are feeling isolation and who do not have children, and they have a heritage or property or several other things to pass on, they definitely adopt. So, single men, single women, married women, unmarried men who want to be in a relationship but cannot due to the laws in the country, and because the relationship is not legitimized, but they want to have children. So they have been acquiring children for adoption. Similarly, with women also, two women having children, adopting children. So this is how it is about who are those people who adopt. With this also comes as to why adoption happens. A large majority of the respondents said that they adopt because they do not have children of their own, which indicates fertility issues. Of course, another set of reasons come from the fact that people want to have somebody to pass on their property, their inheritance, which was also the fact that a lot of people preferred boys or male children over female children. Another is, of course, it was a revelation for me to know that a lot of single women do adopt because they want a company and they prefer girls to be coming in as children. So these are some of the motivations that people have when they go for adoption. In terms of children, I must tell you that it was a challenge, but it was very interesting when I started collecting data from children who were adopted. All these children, I made sure that they know about their adoption process, and their parents have told them at some point that they were adopted. And that is how it was important, because I did not want to tell them, or I did not want to give them an impression that this is what is being researched upon, because that would be very unethical. So only the ones who were told about their adoption status were included in the study. And I realized that children often suffer from identity crisis, because they sometimes feel that, how do I look different from my parents, or comments coming in, and they keep looking at themselves, and they always try to think of who their biological parents are sometimes. There are ways to get children out of any issue. There are counseling and several other scaffolding processes available. And several children whom I have interacted, their parents were able to nicely talk them through. Some who were not, they were in the process of being referred to a psychologist in that direction. Then who are my parents? I even remember that some of the children whom I interacted, they even asked, oh, did I come out of an egg? Maybe very small ones, of course. But these are the often questions that children would have in terms of when they want to know that, yes, where do I come from? Or I do not if I do not belong here, then where do I belong? Then some of them even shared that they want to take on a journey to find their biological parents and ask them. This is a common reference that we have found in popular media, in cinema also, where adopted children often come to know about their biological parents, or they want to know. And to fulfill the curiosity, they will often make a journey. So that's also something which children shared. And am I was I bad enough, or was I not good enough, or that my parents had to be given away? So here I could also see that several parents talked to their children, adopted children, over a period of time, and it will not be a one-to-one conversation, but several days, months it can take for that conversation to go on, to make them realize it was not because of them, but it was their situation.
Right. So these are, some of these conversations must have been tough, at both ends, at your end, at parents' end, and at the child's end.
True.
My curiosity is to also understand, and also for benefit of audience, So when you want to engage with children in such conversations, is it just conversation like you and I are having, or do you also use other methods to understand what they want to say or share?
Absolutely, Shweta, that's a very good question. It is not easy, and for that, there might be several interviews, several sessions that I had to plan. Of course, in the presence of the parents and the guardians, only that the conversations will be held. That was ensured. But even then, it took a lot of time. I had to go with certain students or certain children. I had to go several times and form that rapport through playway, through making drawings, through illustrations, through dolls. I did have to have several sessions of several days of simply storytelling to one 11-year-old participant of my study, after which she opened up and she said, okay, she will try to say something. And Of course, a little bit of cueing from the parents was also required, not prompting, but cueing in terms of what children are trying to say here. I also realize in some of the cases that children possibly are not able to put things verbally that coherently because of lack enough vocabulary not being or still being developed. So they would even draw. And there's one particular girl who shared different, diaries that she had kept, journals that she had kept, which spoke much about what she was undergoing and the fact. In fact, she had not shown it to her adoptive parents. When she showed it, even they also got a clarity into what she was thinking or what her thought process was. So yes, as you asked, a lot of playaway, a lot of other techniques that needs to be going in creative, child friendly conversations, tools, space that needs to be there for ensuring that children are able to share the information in a very participative and fearless manner.
Right, and this also brings up this another point which is very important, that unless you have a relationship with the person that you're talking to, and you invest time in building that relationship, it's going to be hard for you to find answers that you're looking for.
True.
Uh, right. So, did anything emerge from your research that you felt was surprising for you, that you not expected that that would happen, but it happened?
Yes, I was really surprised to know about the caste element here. And when I say caste element here, there were several parents who said that we preferred children of our caste. But so when I would trace back, ask as to why or how a particular caste or how would you even determine? They said we would rather go to a certain place and adopt from that particular place because that has a dominance of upper caste there. So the very fact that even in choosing children, or even in adopting children, people would follow caste came as a surprise to me. Though we know that it is a part of our, narrative, it's a part of our discourse. It was surprising for me that in children adoption it would come. So that's what it is.
Right. And did everybody who was applying for adoption was able to adopt a child, or were there people who had been in the waiting list and had been waiting for a very long time?
Yes, yes. So out of 121, there was a substantial number of people who were waiting or planning for adoption, and they were in the different phases of adoption. I would even start from the ones who were even in the pre-contemplative or contemplative stage, where are thinking or just started to search or talk to people about it, or who have just freshly made the decision that they will be adopting. And you could see that there are several kind of questions, curiosity, tensions, and worry and anxiety that these parents had and these individuals had with regard to how this is going to be, or how will they enter? Will they actually get the child, or when will they get the child? So yes, that was also a cohort. Cohort means a group, which particular group which we are studying, that was also taken for use to others.
Right. Thank you. And what were the challenges for you as a researcher?
Uh, yes. So the whole methodology and the group, both these were a challenge. One, the methodology, when I say in-depth interviews and focus group discussions with experts and in-depth interviews itself is not very easy. It takes several rounds of conversations with people, and that was quite challenging. So every time, sometimes you go to another community or another group or another individual, you would get new kind of data. So how does that inform the previously ones which were just found? So collaborating that, assimilating that, and trying to make a sense and using it for analysis was a bit of a challenge, but was able to overcome. Then dealing with this particular group of people who have adopted and people who have been adopted, that was a bit of a challenge because talking to them, some of them did harbor issues of trauma. So, as a researcher, I had to be very clear that my role is only to bring out the issues to the research so that any intervention or any policy level changes can happen for that particular community, and not to make sure that any personal damage is done. So, maintaining that balance was a challenge, but when I look back, I'm proud that I could do that.
Thank you for sharing that, Reena, and especially the last part. I think the fact that when we talk about anything, whether the issue is sensitive or not, the impact always has to be thought through.
True.
Because we can leave impacts, because we will conduct research and leave, but we will also leave impacts. So it's very important as to how things happen. Thank you so much, Reena, for sharing all about your research, and thank you everyone who joined this conversation and have watched this video. We will come again with another conversation like this. Remember that Research for Everyone is a series where we try to simplify findings and research processes for young researchers, especially. So, meeting you again very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shweta. Thank you.